Cool. Well, we've got that all set up. And what you're looking at here on my shared screen is the creation when you start your Teal account. This is the landing page. This is everything that you'll see when you first log in. I've went ahead and created a demo account and added a couple jobs, so it may look a little bit different when you're first starting out. So this is going to be kind of like your home page when you start, and there'll be a checklist down when you fill it out at the bottom, just kind of helping you build out your Teal profile. And so some things that you can use in your checklist, it'll ask you to kind of add some jobs to the job tracker, so we can use that for matching mode analysis later. When you start to create career goals, all of this information helps build all that out. So I wanted to kind of showcase and set up all of your foundation for your homepage. We have an option to set career goals, and why I like using this is think of it as kind of a project management for your job search. So you have a goal in mind, it's to get hired, but setting intentions with your goals will absolutely help you in the long run. So if you wanted to put a target title or talking about a specific industry and adding a target date, this will kind of help you with your project management. You can change your currency down here to any of the currencies, and that'll always be there as a reminder when you're logging into your Teal account, what your ultimate goal is. Yes, you're looking to get hired, but what are you looking to get hired for? And that can help re-inspire you each morning that you wake up and get started on your job search. So a couple other functions I wanted to talk about is the job applications widget. So this is also kind of tying into project management. If you've ever used data to analyze your job search, this will show you all of the jobs that you've applied for and help you kind of track your progress. We hope that it'll have more than just applied, but we have interviewing, negotiated, offered, and hired will be in there to kind of well-round your job search project management. Again, job searching is kind of like a full-time job nowadays. So think of it as far as managing your job search will really help you in the long run. And then this pipeline also is another way to show kind of the progress on how many jobs you've bookmarked, how many of you applied, and kind of show that funnel down to getting that offer. So when we talk about the resume builder, so one of the most important parts of your job search is your resume. Your resume is like your sales document that markets yourself and explains how qualified you are for the job. It's like in the movie industry, it's the trailer for the main event. You are the main event. Your resume is the trailer. So think of that when you're creating your resume. And there's a couple different ways that you can use the Teal Resume Builder to get started. One way is importing your LinkedIn profile. Another way is importing your current resume that you have, or the third is start completely from scratch. So it kind of starts from like easiest, less manual interaction down to like super manual, and you can own every step of the process. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to import using the LinkedIn feature. And one of the reasons I'm going to be showing that is because if you've ever looked at different resume formatting, they all have different formats. Some have graphics, some have multiple columns, and that can actually have difficulty parsing into a system. Teal kind of mimics the applicant tracking system in a way, and we'll talk about that throughout as we go. When you have multiple columns, sometimes that can be difficult for the systems to read. So if you have multiple columns next to each other, you could have one sentence going across the page, which really doesn't make a lot of sense. So one of the reasons we suggest either starting from scratch or using the LinkedIn profile as a base is because it's already pulling that data and the HTML from the website to create similar to what our resume builder is. So I'm going to go ahead and we are going to be using a demo account, Tina Miller, and we're going to be looking for a marketing role. So I'm going to just copy the URL here. And then when I hit new resume, I can either import it right here, put in my URL and click go. Again, as mentioned, you can also drag and drop a doc or PDF version, or down here, start from scratch manually. So what it's going to pull is all the information on my LinkedIn profile. It'll import on the summary, whatever you have on your about section. It'll take all of your work experience over, all of your education, anything you have listed on there. It'll create that profile for you. So you've got a great baseline to start with. So what you'll see when you start your resume is on the left-hand side is kind of your working document that you'll get to edit, move around. On the right-hand side, you'll see the final finished preview. And then there'll be a couple different features over here, like a guidance section. So as you're going through and editing your profile, it'll have suggestions for each section. So when you're working on adding an achievement, it'll be giving you kind of some guidance to think about as you're creating your resume. We have kind of a resume analysis that'll kind of help you as a guide to filling out your profile. Again, this is all suggestions. So if you don't want to add your city, that's fine. If you don't want to add a professional summary, that's fine. These are also used as a suggestion and not a final end-all result. We'll go into matching mode when we talk about tailoring your resume in a little bit, but that'll be listed right here. We've got our formatting mode here, which I think is a great place to start when you're first starting on your resume. Because it'll help you kind of set the tone, set the format, and start from there, and then work on building and editing your resume. So Teal currently has 4 different formatting options. We are working on adding some more, and they're coming out pretty soon. But we keep it pretty simple, pretty clean. You won't be seeing any images or graphics. And I'll be putting my recruiter hat on and kind of explaining why. So if I go onto a simple Google search and I type resume, and I go and look at the images, so you'll see a lot of these graphics-based images, like this one, for example. It's basically all these graphics and images condensing and pulling everything down to really small sentences. Your experience is not really highlighted as much. Same thing right here. Your experience is now kind of slowly slimmed down to like less than 1/3 of the page. And this one, for example, a whole half of your page is taken up on hard and soft skills and your contact information, when recruiters and hiring managers really just want to see your experience. So as a recruiter, if you are applying to a role, I want to see your experience. I don't necessarily need to see that you're a communicator or a team player. Those soft skills are kind of things we already expect you to know and have in your tool belt. But I want to be looking at your experience. So if you do see kind of some of these examples, they're kind of focusing more like on the graphics, on the images, on your photos. That is typically not what we expect, at least in the US markets, and in some countries, we don't recommend putting your image because how you look does not indicate that you are qualified for the role. Now, we do add a disclaimer that in some countries, they do request that you have your image on your resume. We currently do not have that option as it's not one of our kind of fundamental practices at Teal. Maybe in the future it could be a potential add, but right now we're kind of focusing on the content of your resume and less on the graphics and anything that you may think is standing out, which is really potentially hurting or impacting your candidacy. So again, back to the Teal resume builder, it's all going to be clean and simple formatting. If you wanted to edit like some pop-out color, we do have an accent color that you can choose from. Again, this isn't going to impact whether or not you get hired, but visually it kind of adds a little bit of a distinction. You can change, we have a couple different fonts. All of these fonts have been tested to work within a applicant tracking system so that they can parse the data and the information. We don't have fonts that are like images based or something that has to be downloaded because then that can't transfer well into systems and read. You can change up your margins and kind of edit, your date alignment wherever you want to edit that in. And then one of my favorite parts of the resume builder is editing your section order. So typically, if you have a resume, you'll see the summary at top, then it'll go into your work experience. If you are going for a more reverse chronological, which is your most recent role down to your latest roles, that'll be kind of like the main core resume. But if you wanted to do a more functional skills formatting, you can highlight the skills on top. If you're an entry level or new grad and you wanted to highlight your education, you can also just drag and drop that. And you can also do that in the working document of the resume builder itself. So this is kind of the core function of your formatting. It's a great place to start if you want to just visually get that set up. You can also come back to that later for your resume. and then edit anything you want in here. So if I want to add my website, if I have a portfolio, you can add that in here. You can add your phone number, all that information in here. It's a great way to get you set up. I recommend as a recruiter, the core information for your contact should always be your name, your email, your phone number, and then some sort of website, whether it's a LinkedIn profile, if you're a design, the link to your portfolio, if you're an engineer, some sort of link to any of the work that you've produced. It's a great way, instead of sending in a whole extra document that has all of your contact and your portfolio, it's a great way to just hyperlink that right then and there, and then people can easily view that rather than having to reach out and ask for your portfolio. So think about that within your core functionalities of your contact. And the second part will be adding in some sort of location. If a role says it's remote, that doesn't mean it's necessarily able to work from anywhere. Remote can also mean I can only legally hire people in a state due to taxes. I can only legally hire people within a certain country due to immigration and tax laws. So keep that in mind. And that's why people may ask for your location on your resume. At least start with the state or country. If you need to get a little bit more narrower, as companies are starting to reverse their remote policies and go into a more hybrid or in-office setting, adding your city will definitely help. If you are moving or transitioning, anyone will tell you different advice. My advice would be put the city and state that you're intending to move in if you're intending to move in the near future. So hopefully that helps. Cool. So a couple different options in the resume builder that you can create. If you wanted to create a target title, it's completely optional, up to you. I like using that as an intention for who you are and a way to describe your role, who you are, what you're looking for. However, if you are going to add a target title, I recommend having it be the one that is aligned to the job you're applying to. And you can create multiple resumes within Teal. So if you are changing up your job title, make sure that you have a couple saved in there and that you can just toggle those on and off based on the role that you're applying for. So if I was applying to a marketing manager, I'd probably select that over the social media manager, and that'll pop up throughout the resume. So the professional summary generator is an option that you can also add. Some people love it, some people don't. If you're going to write a professional summary, make sure that it is something that is accurately reflecting your qualifications that gets someone to want to read more. What a professional summary is really not is an explanation of why you may not be qualified, any sort of like take a chance on me. You want to be highlighting your experience, your achievements, who you are. If you've got 12 years of experience in marketing, put that on there. It's a great way for the eyes to go and see, they meet my expectations for the role I'm hiring. So with Teal, you can use the generate with AI. And I love this feature because it's a great way to ideate and start and to kind of build that baseline. So what it's going to do is the free version of Teal offers 2 generated summaries, and basically a great way to build upon. And it'll take the data from your current resume or your LinkedIn profile and help ideate and create. You can also use this as kind of at the end of your resume generating process, so it has kind of all the accurate information, but it'll create a couple sentences just kind of highlighting and summarizing your experience that essentially is kind of like the commercial to the main event, and as we talked about in the beginning. With any sort of AI, I always recommend using this as a way to start and to build and ideate from. If this is not accurate of what's something that you can explain in an interview, it's time to go back to the drawing board and reword or rework something. And if there's anything that you don't like, you can always edit or remove it, but it's a great way to start from. And the Teal free version has 2 options. You can do 2 sample generated AI summaries. The premium version with Teal Plus, you can use unlimited AI, create 10 different resume summaries if you'd like. And then go from there. So that's kind of the resume summary and kind of a little bit of guidance about what you may want to or may not have on your resume. And then about your work experience. So when you think about what you want to articulate in your resume, you're applying for a job and you are using your past experience, your past skill set to add value to your candidacy of why someone should hire you. So when you think about what you want to put in your work experience, you're going to want to think about the impact you've made at your role. And no matter what role you've had in your experience, whether it's part-time, full-time, hourly, salary, consulting, you've added impact somehow. You've done something in some way to add value and impact to keep the business driving forward. So think about that when you are working on what you want to put in your resume. I always recommend to keep as a little bit of words as possible to add maximum impact. If someone were to ask you what you've done at your past role, how would you explain to that as if you were talking out loud to them? Would you give them a 10-page summary of everything you've done in your one role? Or would you talk about probably the top 3 or top 5 things that you've ever done? So think about that when you are sitting down and working on your work experience and what you want to articulate. Think about what's most important, what you're most proud of, and how that added impact. Not every work experience has data and metrics, but a lot of times you have some sort of KPIs that you are measured by that you can help use when you're articulating your work experience. So a cool thing that you can do in the add achievement mode right here is you can type it all out, but it has some suggestions on guidance, as we talked about earlier, of what to put, using action verbs, using any sort of kind of rubric of metrics or achievements. We've got some great examples to use as something to ideate from. We've got a great prompt. Whenever I ask someone about what they've done in an interview, I would probably ask them follow-up questions. So think about that when you are translating that into your work experience on your resume. I worked on a project. Well, what was the project? How long was the project? Did you incorporate any sort of programs or tools? And this will help kind of add that value into your experience and answer that question ahead of time. So there's no guessing of your impact or your candidacy at all in your resume. We've got a great achievement assistant mode, which basically is kind of like a Mad Libs version of piecing everything together. If you're having a little bit of difficulty articulating your experience, we've got a couple samples. You can also type out everything of your own of what you did. Did you improve something? Did you save money? Was there a percentage increase or decrease? Did you reduce errors or any sort of thing? It kind of adds that all up together and will show the result here. You can save that. Again, you can do as many of these as you want for free within Teal, and that'll just save over on your working edited document. Teal's free version offers 5 generated AI achievements. And like the resume summary, it pulls ideations from your current resume to come up with sample ways to build upon and start from. So with anything with AI, you use it as a guide, you use it as a starting point, and you edit to reflect your accurate experience. If this achievement is not aligned with something that you've done, think about if there's anything that you have done that's relevant that you could kind of follow a similar pattern or as a similar rubric, and then go from there. So you can also drag and drop if a job description is saying that they want someone who has increased market share. I'll probably want to increase that and put that up at the top. So that's the first thing that people see. You can just easily drag and drop and reorder that there. If you've worked at multiple jobs in a company, I always can suggest, and again, everyone will give you different advice, but what I like to see is what's the most relevant and what's the most important. I worked at a company and I was promoted and moved to different orgs about 4 or 5 times, but I really only talk about kind of the core one that I worked on or the more recent and relevant, as the program and system will likely be more up to date and more relevant to what I'm looking for. But you can always update and edit. If you wanted to add another role and stay within the same company, you can easily do that there. Change your position, change if it's an internship, full-time, part-time, and you can edit and update if it's your current role. You can also add a company description. This is kind of like an optional add if you wanted to kind of clarify a bit more on what the role is. Sometimes when I'm looking at resumes, I have no idea the company. There's so many startups, there's so many big and small companies that it's kind of great to get a little bit of guidance. If I'm looking to hire someone with business to business marketing experience or SaaS experience, I like to kind of know a little bit about what that company is. Otherwise, I can just hop on Google. That adds a little bit of extra time. So if there's that little teeny blurb, just gives me a little bit more information on the industry and kind of the scope and impact of the role that you had. So that's a little bit about the work experience. We've talked about your summary. We've talked about your work experience. what about your skills? So your skills is a highly debated topic on a resume. It's found at the bottom of the resume builder on the left-hand side. What it's basically going to do is pull some hard and soft skills from your resume and have that there for you to start as a starting point. If you are going to be using a skills section, I recommend highlighting what is most relevant and most important that you want to showcase on your resume. As a recruiter, if I'm hiring technical roles, I want to know the frameworks that you are experienced and proficient at. I want to know the programs you've worked with. I want to know how you've used that in the settings. So really think about that when you are crafting your skill section, is think about what is most relevant. Do I want the word events on there for a role that isn't related to events? Maybe not for the role I want to apply for. So I may deselect that. Marketing is pretty, generic. So maybe I'm going to start to limit that. Salesforce is a pretty important tool to know in marketing. So I probably want to highlight that. I can also drag and drop that. If I want to create a category, so let's say I wanted to do frameworks and I'm applying for a software engineer job, I can now create a new section within the skills section and drag and drop the frameworks in here. You can do that for hard skills, for soft skills. You can do that also for languages. If you have a tool belt of languages that you know, you can add that in there. You can add a category, languages, then it's created, and now you'll have it in here, and I can add that skill to whatever language I want to add. And now it's kind of reflected right here as your frameworks, your languages, and all your skills. So as mentioned before, keep it condensed and keep it concise and straight to the point. If it is not relevant towards the job that you're applying for, I don't recommend adding it on your resume. And I also recommend keeping it as detailed as possible. Nowadays, everyone should be expected to know Microsoft Suite. So think about, do you really need to have that on your resume? Is that really going to add impact? So condense, keep it to the point. And if you're going to have a skills section, keep it relevant to what the job is that you're applying for. If I'm applying for a marketing manager position, I probably won't put anything that's not marketing related or program related towards that specific role. We have a couple other sections people have requested to add, so we've added it on there. If you wanted to put any sort of certification, you can add that in here. It's super easy. Just add the certification, the provider, start date. If you want any amazing awards and want to talk about them, if they're related to the job that you're applying for, you can go ahead and add that in here. Again, you can also drag and drop these sections easily throughout your resume. If you worked on some freelance projects, it's a great opportunity to highlight the project. And we give some great suggestions in here as far as if you want to talk about an academic project, a personal project, a freelance project, volunteer, leadership, whatever that is, talk a bit about that. Make sure it's brief and concise and to the point. You don't need to have a huge paragraph about it, just a couple of details about the project so that if someone were to ask you in an interview, you can talk about that as well. So we've talked about your skills section. If you wanted to add your interest, we have an option to add that in there. As a recruiter, I'm probably not going to be looking at your interests because that can add a bit of biases. However, sometimes it's a great way to start a conversation starter and a great way to just diversify your application. So there's a lot of great different sections in here as well. You can update your education, you can remove it. If I want to take off my year I graduated, I can just easily do that as well. So this is basically a great way to start your base foundation for your resume, and it'll all be here. The final document is all set up here. You can always export that as a PDF and move on and start applying. So we talked a bit about the resume builder, how to build your resume, how to change and move up your section order based on the job that you're looking for. If you want a more functional resume or a chronological resume, you can also easily do that in here and then export that as PDF. We are working on getting an update to export as Word. One of the reasons that we recommend using PDF is it saves the formatting options and ensures that the information when you are applying to the job within the ATS doesn't get jumbled up in the process. So that's a bit about the resume builder. The next topic I wanted to discuss is the highly debated topic about cover letters. So I'd love to see in the chat Do we love cover letters? Do we hate cover letters? Let me know if you want to do a thumbs up or thumbs down, and then I'll give you my take as a recruiter. As an applicant, I don't love resumes. I feel like they can be time consuming. I feel like they may not be able to articulate all of my experience. I don't really know where to start or how to word them. So I generally don't love cover letters. As a recruiter, I think about that when I'm reviewing applicants. Cover letters are difficult to write. They're difficult to read through. We don't really know what to put on there. Does it sound like AI? Does it sound like me? Is it relevant at all? But as a recruiter, if you take the time to write a cover letter, I'm going to take the time to read it. Now, does it add value to your candidacy? It can. And we're going to talk a little bit about why and what you can and can put on your cover letter and some general tips to leave off. So again, all this that we're doing is within the free version of Teal. We'll showcase the value that you can get within the Teal Plus in a little bit, but you can use your resume to create a cover letter that is relevant to the job. But before we need to do that, we want to add a job so it kind of aligns with the role that we're looking for, because again, your cover letter is an added page or document that is relevant to the job that you're applying for. So I want to make sure that I'm highlighting what's relevant to the job versus just generally talking about my experience. I want to add value, add to my candidacy. So we need to add a job. So we have a wonderful free tool called the Job Tracker. And we have a Chrome extension that you're able to easily pull jobs from job boards. Teal Chrome Extension works with about 40 plus job boards right now. It pulls the data and the HTML to create a profile of the company, of the role, a little bit about the job description. I'll show you how to do that from scratch in a minute, but wanted to kind of show what it looks like. So you've got your job description. It tells you a bit about what they're looking for, a little bit about the role. Here's some of the essential roles and responsibilities. This is specifically what they're looking for in the job. It saves the experience and the basic requirements they're looking for, and a little bit about the company. And why I love having a job tracker is when companies get too many applicants and they're ready to start interviewing, they'll take down a job posting so they're not getting flooded with too many jobs. So it's a great way to kind of keep that. If you're not currently job searching, this is a great option to start as a way to do some market research. What are companies looking for typically in this type of role? I can start piecing together what it is that I want to articulate. So you can use this as a market research tool. You can use this as a job application tracking tool. There's a couple different ways you can use that, but how you add jobs to your job tracker is you type in the role that you're looking for. You can type in your location, and you can kind of skew down the criteria that you're looking for based on salary, based on on-site, remote, and it'll pull all that data for you here. And when I've downloaded the Chrome extension, I can just easily add that here. If there is no compensation listed, I can manually add that in. I can rate the job however excited I am. If I'm intending to apply for it, I'll probably put it as applied. And Teal's free version, so it shows the top 5 hard skills. These are kind of some of the common words that are pulled and associated with the job description, whether it's used many times. This is used the word marketing 8 times. The Teal Plus offers unlimited keyword analysis, but Teal free version offers the top 5 hard skills, soft skills, and emphasis words. I can also use this as taking notes. If I met someone in networking or someone referred to me for a job, I can definitely take those notes there, and that'll save that all into your job tracker. So I'll save that right in there, and then it'll show up right here. And it's all here. And we have a little bit of a guidance checklist to help walk you through the application process all the way through following up. Your notes that you saved will be in here. If I saw that there was a recruiter, I can add that in here. It looks like this job doesn't have one, but I can attach a contact in here. Again, there's that checklist that we talked about. Teal's free version offers 1 free template, and Teal Plus investment gives you unlimited access to the templates to start as a starting point when you're connecting and networking with recruiters. We'll talk a little bit about networking with recruiters a little bit later, but wanted to kind of give you an insight into the job application tracker And you can easily move them through the various stages of the process, right in through here. If you want to remove it, you can close and remove that job, whether you got rejected, whether you declined it, or they aren't moving you anywhere forward. You can archive that or delete that here. And that'll kind of update your job tracker and kind of help with your results based on kind of this pipeline that we talked about in the beginning. So if I want to add a job to my job tracker, I'll go back and for matching mode, I'll take one of the jobs that I'm looking for. Let's pick this one. And it'll show you a match score. It'll show in Teal's free version the top 5 keyword analysis, and I can turn that on to highlight and identify where those words are and help when I'm starting to match. And Teal's free version, again, shows the top 5 hard skills. The investment of Teal Plus will showcase the full analysis for matching mode. We have a match score, and this kind of mimics what some applicant tracking systems have, which is kind of a match score analysis. Now, not all applicant tracking systems or ATS have this. Some do. They're not really great. I've used some, and as a recruiter, I ignore them. But this kind of gives you a little bit of semblance of, does my resume align with the job I'm applying for, and is it keyword optimized? Just because you have all the right keywords, you can still be listed as not qualified. So keep that in mind. It's not necessarily what you say, but how you say it. You can have the job description here, and it'll highlight all of the hard and soft skills. And you can edit and reflect that. And then any notes that I want to put in here of like, if I'm writing my job description, I want to make sure I add that note in, you can have that in here. So we talked a bit about the cover letter generator. So now that we've matched the job, we've worked on creating and building our resume, I'll want to draft and start as an ideation point for my cover letter. And what it's basically going to do is Teal's free version will take everything from the job description and your resume and kind of build and create your showcasing summary of who you are and what your qualifications are. And so Teal's free version allows for one generated AI cover letter. Teal Plus, the investment offers unlimited. You can keep creating as many as you want, as many roles you want, all at the touch of a button. So depending on how much content you have, it may take a little bit of time to read through and to analyze everything and create your cover letter generator that you can then use as a starting point and edit and build upon. So what it's going to be doing is adding the maximum amount of information. It's going to give you as much detailed info as you want. And then what you're going to do is take that and say, I maybe don't want to talk about this, so I may remove that, or this doesn't really have as much value that I want to pack into my cover letter, so I may remove that and edit, or I don't like the way that sentence starts, so I'm going to go ahead and edit that. Again, with anything with AI, you want to use that as a starting point for ideation and to edit and build upon so you can accurately reflect your information correctly for your candidacy. As I mentioned earlier, as a recruiter, if you're going to write a resume, I'm going to read it. However, if you are writing something that doesn't add any impact, you're going to immediately lose me. I'm going to lose interest. I want to know why you're a qualified candidate for this specific role and not just any role. I'm hiring a marketing manager for my team. I want to fill this role because it has, whether it's a backfill, there's some sort of need for the company to move forward. And that's why they've opened the role. So I'm not looking to see if you can do a good job at any company, but how you can add value at this company. And if you're going to reflect that in your cover letter, make sure it's detailed and to the point and really kind of adds value and isn't just essentially a document with keywords and throwing out numbers. So use this as a starting point in ideation. This is a little bit of a long cover letter, so I would probably look at it and maybe see where I can take things out and really keep it to the point. What I don't recommend putting on your cover letters is, again, why you may not be qualified, what skills that you don't have, any sort of like take a chance on me. They're taking a chance on you by reading your resume. And if you're not qualified, they're not going to move you forward. So think about highlighting anything that you want to add value and focus less away from something that doesn't add value or leans in onto why you may not be qualified. A cover letter is also not a great way to talk about anything that isn't relevant to the role. So anything that adds biases, you don't need to talk about your hobbies or interests or that you did something fun over the summer. Keep it brief and keep it to the point as to why someone should hire you for this role. So, and what you can do right now is you can copy that text if you want to open and edit that in a document. Right now, we don't have the option to save as a PDF. This is, again, a great place to ideate and build upon within Teal's resume builder. So we have our resume. If you want to start tailoring your resume, now that we've added matching mode analysis, it'll give you that score, and I can identify areas I want to highlight. What tailoring your resume means is, again, showcasing your value for this specific role and not just any role. So I want to be talking about how I could add value as an influencer marketing manager. So I want to be highlighting my influencer marketing work rather than general just job responsibilities, something that adds value and impact. So think about that with your tailoring your resume. You don't need to create a brand new resume for every single role that you apply for. But let's say I'm applying to some senior influencing marketing managers. Maybe I'm applying to a social media manager. Maybe I'm applying to a data marketing analyst. I'm probably going to create 3 different resumes for those and just use those and apply directly. You don't need to create 100 different resumes for 100 different roles. As long as they're kind of all within the same realm and all within the same format, you can go from there and use that to tailor. How I love to start is create your base resume and add everything you've ever done, any sort of impact, anything that can be relevant. Again, with Teal, you can add as many achievements as you want. And then when you're going to go in and start tailoring, I think, this may not be relevant. I'm going to deselect that and toggle that off. That may not be relevant, and I want to move that up. So this is how you can tailor your resume and spend less time adding more impact and value than you would if you were sitting and drafting and creating one resume every single time. And so that's why Teal really kind of helps streamline the process and make it a bit easier. So again, the advice is you don't need 100 different resumes for 100 different roles. That's a lot of time, but think about the job that you're applying for. If I'm opening a role, there's needs and wants, and I want to find someone that has that information. And so if it's not on your resume, I can't assume that you know something. I don't know what you don't know. So make sure it's listed on your resume and it's relevant to the job that you're applying for. Cool. I know we're getting a couple questions in the chat. Again, it's hard for me to see all the chat when it comes in, so we'll be getting to the Q&A in just a bit. Cool. So we talked a bit about your resume. We talked about matching mode analysis. We discussed the job tracker and staying organized and on top of all the jobs that you apply for. One of the other options that Teal has is a contacts tracker. So it's a great way to stay on top and organized and connecting with people. Again, LinkedIn is a networking site. It is a social media platform. So just because you message someone doesn't mean that they will automatically respond to you. So keep that in mind when you are messaging. If you're reaching out to a hiring manager, if you're reaching out to a recruiter, if they're an in-house recruiter, I recommend applying first. If you're looking for a referral, get that referral ASAP. Have that direct apply, and then reach out to people, because we can't necessarily evaluate you and determine if you are going to be moving forward through the process if you haven't applied. And that is how we can utilize equal and fair hiring practices. And we're evaluating all the candidates who have applied to the role rather than people who've necessarily reached out. Because if you think about, if I'm reaching out to someone and say, hey, I'd love to apply to a role, the response is, great, applied at the role. Great. I've applied to the role. That's time wasted. You could have directly applied and made that great first impression and just say, hey, I've applied to the role. I'm letting you know. I'd love to connect and maybe have a recruiter screen or an initial screen to discuss my qualifications. And so then it's basically in their ball court to see if they want to move forward or not. So you can add them through the contacts tracker easily within Teal. So when you open up someone's page, it'll kind of showcase who they are. You can add, if this is someone who I want to set an interview with, I can say I want to do an informational interview. I haven't contacted them yet, and I'm going to send a follow-up. I'm going to give them about a week because recruiters are getting flooded with messages. Not everyone is up to date and watching LinkedIn all day long. So I'm going to give it about a week and then go from there. So I've saved my contact. And then if If I just reload that in here, now Jessica will be in my contacts tracker forever, and it'll show all the information, if there's any contact info, a little bit about their experience, just so I have that information here. And I can also link them to a job that I've saved, and this will kind of create and build that rapport and that networking. And when we want to network, we want to intentionally network. We don't necessarily want to reach out just for the sake of reaching out. We want to be intentional with our networking. This is also a great tool if you are interviewing. I would save their connection and save all their information. And then any sort of questions that they may ask or any details or information that they call out, I may want to put that into my notes section here so that I have a running document of notes ready to go for the interview. And I can save that all. They'll automatically be saved in Teal. Again, you can do all this for free within Teal at any time and as many as you want. So it's a great way to use that as an intentional networking, because anyone can add a connection or follow, but I may not have actually ever connected with them or contacted with them. But everyone in my contacts tracker is someone I've directly worked with. I've directly networked with. I've directly interviewed with. That's all intentionally in here, and it's connected into the job description. So it's a great resource within Teal. And you can follow the different companies that you work for, or the companies that you want to work for. If I really want to work at Amazon, there's the company. I can click that page. This is a different Amazon. That's weird. I can find the company page, and I can easily add that in here. If I really want to work for them, I'm going to save them. If there's any notes that I want to save, they'll all be in here. I like to use this when I'm doing a little bit of market research and analysis of, hey, they've opened 6 recruiting jobs in the last, 6 months. So I'll keep that in mind and think about, I know Amazon really hypes on their leadership principles. Maybe I'll save my leadership principles in here. So I always have that for reference. I can always save and follow anything I want about the company will always be in here. Another feature that Teal has is our work style survey. So you're gonna want to answer some questions, and it gives you kind of an analysis on how you work, how you operate, how you approach problem solving. It's a great way to use before you start interviewing, and it gives you kind of a great picture to step back and look at how I operate. Everyone at Teal within the company, we use the work style survey, and it's great to see how different and diverse everyone approaches problem solving, and can really update and adapt how you work within your company, how you approach interviewing, how you even approach your job search. It's eerily accurate, and I just love the features that it has. It's a great conversation starter. It's kind of like your Enneagram, like how I approach and I communicate is wildly different than how many other folks approach and communicate. So before we get into the QA section, I wanted to highlight some additional features that we have. If you ever have an issue, if you run into a roadblock, if you're stuck on something, we're here to help. We're here to support you in any way. All you have to do is select that question mark, and it takes you straight into our support center here. This is brand new. I think we launched this a few weeks ago, and it's a great way to get some of the most common questions, anything that you're stuck on, any additional resources. If I need some help with the Chrome extension, it's all in here, and we're constantly adding and updating. We're creating new video walkthrough and tutorials that we're going to be adding in here. So if there's something that I want to look at about cover letters, it's all here. If something hasn't been working, here's an easy guide and step-by-step on how to fix and edit. Again, if you still need help, you can easily contact us, give us a rating if it was helpful. We follow and make sure we're constantly updating. But if there's something on the support center that you just can't find, you're going to want to hit this little question mark. If it's feedback, if you have an issue with something not working, if you really love something, we'd love to see what you love about Teal. It's how we know we're going in the right direction and how we're updating and improving things that you want. If you've got a suggested feedback or a feature that we could incorporate, chances are we're probably working on that right now, but let us know. We create the features for Teal within your mind and what you want. We also keep that in mind of best practices and make sure that it's aligned with what's helping and benefiting you as the job seeker. So let us know. It goes straight to our email. Everyone gets insight to it. These are the humans behind that are answering your questions. There's Rachel right here. So send us a message. Let us know how you feel about Teal. It's how we're updating and improving. And then the next section we have here is if you do want to upgrade your account to Teal Plus, it lets you know a bit about the investment that you get within Teal. We talked a lot about how it's unlimited AI generation, unlimited creation within Teal, unlimited cover letters. And then we have our referral section. So if you want Teal Plus, we've had so many people spreading the word about how wonderful Teal is and how it's helped them in their job search. So we're giving back to you for helping us spread the good word. We don't invest in big ads, we invest in you. So for every 5 people you refer to Teal to sign up for free using your special link right here, all you do is hit copy link. I can go and create a post within Teal and say, sign up for Teal. Here's why I'm loving Teal. You can get a week of Teal Plus for free to use at any point in time. And there's a couple message templates we can use, and you can create a post and share to all of your networking sites. So that's a little bit of an overview of Teal and all of its core functions and kind of why they're in place. I definitely want to get to the Q&A section. So if you do have questions, please put it in the Q&A